Okay, welcome back, you guys. In this video, we're learning how to set our camera up to shoot video. Now, when we're dealing with video, what's really important is our frame rate. So we're going to choose a frame rate based on what it is that we're shooting. Now, in this example, I'm thinking shooting a talking head video or an interview, something like that, where I want it to look like it's in real time. I want it to look like my eyes see it. Now, I could choose to shoot in 30 frames per second, but I actually will go with 24 because in my mind, I'm thinking the cinematic look. So for this example, let's go with 24 frames per second. So we're going to go into our menu and we're gonna choose our frame rate right there. So we're gonna go in. Now you do have options for frame rates. Every camera is gonna be slightly different. Some might have 30, some might have 60. You're gonna all have 24 or some variation of that. Yours, a side note, sometimes you see 23.976, which is the exact decimal point. If you see that, that does mean 24. Mine just says 24, so I'm gonna go with that. I'm going to go back. One thing I'm going to point out is you do need to choose your resolution. So now every camera again is going to be slightly different. There's a ton of options on my camera. I'm going to choose this 4K HS. It's a slightly compressed version of 4K it's a smaller file size, but still really sharp in 4K and crisp. This camera actually has 8K, which is crazy, but I'm not going to go with 8K for now. That file size will be huge, so I'm just going to go with this version of 4K. Okay, I'm gonna half press my shutter and we're gonna come out of there. So now when you see my screen, we're set to 4K and 24 frames per second. And then the next very important thing is that our shutter speed needs to follow that 180-degree rule. That means that our shutter is gonna be double our frame rate. So in this example, if we're 24 frames per second, double 24 is 48. Now, this camera doesn't have a 48 frames per second, but the next closest thing is 50, okay? So we were there. We're at 50 already, so that did look good to me. Um, and then once you have it set, you're not going to move your shutter. Your shutter is locked. It's going to follow that 180-degree rule. We don't move it because then we're going to get a natural motion blur like we talked about in earlier lessons. So it's locked. The only thing we can use now to expose is going to be our ISO or our f-stop, okay? And then we'll choose a nice f-stop. We're going to choose the amount of blur that we want. So our F is kind of determined by how much background blur we want and maybe how dark the situation is too. If we need to let more light in, we can lower it down. But yeah, so really you only have access to your f-stop and your ISO in video because our shutter is now locked to the frame rate. Okay, so now that we have everything set and we're looking good, let's take a look at a couple examples of what 24 frames per second looks like.
Yeah, my mom and I are very, very close. She's a mom to 5 children, and so we keep her very, very busy. We keep her on her toes. But me, out of anyone, I've probably been the most challenging. I've had a lot of health problems in my time, and she's always been there for me. She's really been that rock there for me. Come to me with many appointments, and I've put her through a lot. But she's also a grandma, so she's a great grandma. She attends every sporting event that my nieces and nephews and my daughter have ever had. She's always there in the stands cheering. She attended a lot of my events as well.
Perfect. Okay. So there you go. The camera is set. We're ready for video. One final thing I will point out is just make sure your camera is set to video mode because if you're not in video mode, you might not get access to all of those menu settings. So just make sure it's not in photo mode, that you did in fact flip it over to video mode.